Okay, so when we talk about troubleshooting and fixing PCs, we have to talk about being logical. And the only way that O-U-B, why is that? Is that spelled right? Why is my brain not working? Okay, I'm trying to write troubleshooting. Trouble. Isn't that what I had? That's what I had. It looks wrong. For some reason my brain's not working right. Anyway, so when we talk about troubleshooting, we have to talk about logical steps, okay? And how we go through, and I'm going to show you some flow charts and stuff, but when you do your final exam, you have to not only fix the PC, you have to show a logical order that you did things right. So you're going to have a checklist that you create that I grade as well. So even if you don't fix the PC, but if you take the logical steps and just don't happen to find the problem, that doesn't mean you failed the exam, okay? So if you go and put in, the first thing I did, was checked PSU input, checked PSU with tester, pass that, okay? And then 3 comes up to 4, okay. Checked panel connectors. Okay, what am I doing a checklist for right here? If you were to guess something that was wrong with the PC, that I would start out with those steps first of all. Yeah, it's not powering on, okay? So if I get a PC, for instance, that's not powering on, I need to think what are the logical steps to see why a PC wouldn't power on, okay? So is my cable good? Is my power supply good? Are my front panel connectors good? They plugged in the right spot, because they could easily just give you one where they randomly move the front panel connectors, okay? And then I go through those steps until I fixed it. Now you don't have to, while you're doing the test, you don't have to write all these down while you're doing it. You can do them and then go back and document, or you can document while you're doing it, and I'm just grading you on what order you do, okay? But that's kind of the parallel of what we're going to be doing the next few days, as well as why just fixing it isn't the most important thing. Because there are lots of times where, now these should all be fixable, by the way. There's lots of times where we follow logical steps to fix a PC, we don't find an answer. If we have a motherboard that the capacitor is blown, you're not going to see that. Sometimes you can see it. Sometimes you can actually see the capacitor is leaking on the motherboard, and that's why it doesn't start. But sometimes we go through all the steps, and we logically follow through, and we don't get the computer working. It doesn't necessarily mean we did something wrong. Now, all of these that you guys are going to have are all fixable. We're not going to give you one where we actually cut the capacitor off the motherboard and then went, ha ha ha. Too bad for you. They all have to be something that can fix. Okay. Although students have soaked video cards in water overnight to make them not work, so that the hardware student had to replace the video card. Okay. So there are a possibility that changeable parts could be bad, but we don't consider the motherboard and the CPU a changeable part. You're not going to have to put in a new CPU, okay, or a new motherboard. That's kind of past our timeline, right? So anyways, just to let you know that that's part of the thing. So what we're talking about now, really, the last chapter is on troubleshooting and repairing a PC, and it kind of brings together everything that we've done the whole year. In order to repair a PC, you have to understand the parts. You have to understand how those parts go together, right? So you just did a project on kind of picking out parts that go together, and hopefully, because of all the chapters we've done, you understand the basis of how those things go. Okay? And we have a bunch of flowcharts that are on chapter 16, which is the final chapter. And those flowcharts, we're going to talk about flowcharts today, how to read flowcharts, and we're going to make some flowcharts today. I usually use a piece of software to do it. We might go ahead and do that. I'm going to see if it's still linked to your Google accounts to do the software. But basically what flowcharts let us do is they help us go through the decision and the troubleshooting matrix and find the answer. Now, I don't go and use a flowchart when I go out to a PC, right? Because anymore, most of those things, I could make the flowchart because I already know them because they're just part of my troubleshooting process, okay? But flowcharts are really integral for new help desk personnel. If you call a help desk on the phone, there is a very, very good chance that they're sitting there with a flow chart out, and the questions that you answer, they're going through that flow chart and following through and going to the next stage, okay? So there are things on how to read a flow chart, okay? So on flow charts, you usually have different symbols on flow charts that mean things, okay? And the most important one is this one, okay? And basically this one is a question that kind of follows along, and you answer the question to yourself and you say, okay, and that the question part is the did you or does it do whatever. Okay, I'm going to go back to Moodle and show you what I'm talking about on some of these flowcharts. So down here on the chapter 16, I don't want you to become overwhelmed, but I put all the flowcharts down here. This is the culmination of all these flowcharts together. Okay, so that's a PC flowchart that goes through and asks you questions. I didn't make this one, by the way. And it's from this website I found, but it's a pretty good flowchart. That isn't all inclusive. In fact, every year we go through one section of it and find stuff that we're like, well, he didn't do this. But they're kind of a start. Now, I'm not going to open that big, huge one and try to read that. I'm going to go to the one just on power supplies, so we start with something easy, okay? So this is what a basic flowchart works if we thought that we think it might be power related, okay? So if we think it might be power related, then this is a flowchart that we would start out with. And you guys can use these flowcharts during your test. You can have your laptop out, and they're there to help you think through the process. I will tell you that most of the time students don't use them, and the students that don't fix theirs later on say, I wish I had used them. But you don't have to, it's totally optional. So here's one on, hey, the PC doesn't come on. Great flowchart, but apparently no power supply tester, which we do. I have some notes up top there. So the first question, which is what that symbol looks for, is, does the power come on? And if the answer is no, then you follow this way. Okay, next question. Do you have a good power source? What's that mean? Use a live, no. Well, then use a live outlet, that mean, okay. So it's saying, are you plugged into something that works? Now, sometimes when people do this, they immediately think it is necessarily talking about the plug. It may not be. If it's plugged into a power strip, you easily can have a power strip that fails. We have power strips in school, I guarantee you, that are 20 or 30 years old, that teachers have underneath their desks, that the switch can fail, the power strip can fail. So when you say, is it a good power source, don't just say, the lamp works fine when I plug it in there, which would be a good test to see if the outlet works, right? But is there a power strip plugged in, and is it a lamp or something else plug in or work when I plug it into that power strip? So you kind of have to multi-think some of these things. That could be something else, okay? So yes, so we go on and go here. Now, while I'm here, and you're checking the power source, a good check for the power source isn't just the outlet and isn't just the power strip too, because we have had on several occasions where that power cord itself, that cord that you think nothing could go wrong on the cord, has gone bad. In fact, we've had tons of these power cords that go to your guys' laptop power supplies, that the cord has gone bad. Students will bring in their power brick, and I'll just plug in a different cord, and the brick works fine, and their cord just doesn't work. How does a copper wire go bad? I have no idea, but it does, okay? So one of the things that I might do with is a good power source is every PC has a monitor right next to it, right? And right now I know this monitor has power because I see the blue thing moving around the screen. I just switch and unplug it from the monitor and plug it into the PC. Do the opposite. What am I checking when I swap those? Am I checking the PC or the monitor?
Both.
Okay, I'm checking the monitor. Okay? And the reason I say that is because I'm trying to say, does this PC power cord work? I know that one does. I swap them. Monitors on. Okay, I know the power cord was good. I'll just use this power cord now because I knew it was good on the monitor. Okay, before I continue on. So, next thing, yes, it worked. Is the 110, 220 set. That little switch on the back of the power supply. And I think I've told you this story before, but we had a bunch of machines that were very similar to that we bought all new power supplies for. We bought 20 new power supplies, and it turns out the person that said we needed to order new power supplies, Gary Anderson, never looked to see if they were set this 120 or 220 were set, okay? All those PCs had to have just come from Europe. It's the only time that's ever happened. We got a whole load of PCs from Europe that came to us through right pack. It seems kind of weird that they'd be turned, okay? But all of them were set to 220 because they were in Europe, and none of them worked because of that. Does this ever happen in Trail? It certainly does. It used to happen in Lab 210 all the time. We go down there all the time. For some reason, somebody, this was several years ago, probably 4 or 5 years ago, somebody liked sitting in that lab and flicking the switch on the computers when they were all behind them. So the computers, and when you flick that switch, the computer doesn't turn off right away. It usually takes 3 or 4 minutes before it shuts down. Why, I don't know. Okay, but it does. So, is the 220 or 110, 220 set? No. Set it right, dummy, and then come back again if it doesn't work. Okay? That's why it terminates there with that. Okay? So come down, yes. Is the installed motherboard lead correct? In other words, is that power button correct? Check manual and motherboard silk screen. I'm gonna connect lead from front panel switch. Okay, so in other words, is the button from the front connect isn't connected correctly? Yes. Did the power switch fail? No idea how you would know that. If the button itself failed, right? I mean, if this is the culprit, this little push button right here, I don't know how you would know that right there. So yes, replace the switch. I don't know. I guess, no, I shouldn't say that. You could take a little power meter and put it on the 2 contacts and see if it opens and closes. Because all that's doing is opening and closing a contact, right, between those wires. So if I had a voltmeter, which I used to, but I melted it when I was fixing the front sign, I didn't hear the right things. Melted. Because I didn't know what I'm not a sign repair guy, and I'm out there going, oh no, you know, it's like I was in my thing. I was like, okay, that wrong thing. So I guess you could use a voltmeter and hook it up and see if the switch closes when you push the button. So power switch failed. No power supply connection is the motherboard correct, and that requires you to understand what that's asking, right? What power connections to the motherboard could be wrong that make the motherboard not start?
The one from power supply to the motherboard.
How many are there?
There's the one PS4 connector.
How many are there? There's 2, right? There's the P1, the big P1, the 3.3 volt P1, and there's another 12 volt power connector, and I'm stuck on PS4, but whatever. It's the other one that goes over by the CPU, which could be a 4-pin or an 8-pin connector, depending on whether it's an AMD or an Intel motherboard. But that's a biggie. It happens all the time where somebody they'll go in and just pull the one plug. It's hard to find, and especially for older IT people, because that's new. How new is it? It's new, like 8 years new. But in the realm of I've been doing it for 30 years, that's new, right? So for you guys, there is no motherboard that you guys would ever connect that doesn't have two power connectors to the motherboard that I've seen recently. I shouldn't say that. I'm sure there's an ITX mini board that only has one, maybe because it just doesn't need that much power. But almost all motherboards today require 2 power connections to the motherboard. So it only takes one not being connected for the motherboard to come on. But you guys have to know that, because all these questions, although they are intended to lead you along the right path as you're thinking through things, they don't tell you everything. So if you think you're going to go through any flowchart and it's going to include every single question that you might ask, that is not correct. Okay? Now, if you're going to be an IT repair person, they sell really nice, I don't know if I still have my one little one over here. Really nice ones. In fact, it used to be as part of this class that you had a class fee, and you got this little tiny student handbook that had flowcharts, and I don't know where it is. It was like this big. Ah, there it is. I knew I had it out somewhere. So this pocket guide that you guys used to get has a lot of information in it to reference, which would be great for an IT person that's got all the beep codes for every single, what do I hear? Okay, I get one, then two beeps, then two beeps, then one beep. Oh, it means the keyboard controller failed to initiate with postcode 14. Okay, some stuff in here that I don't really follow through. Okay, so the only problem is they didn't keep it updated, and so it's really out of time. They might have a new one now. It does have some great stuff. Now, if I was going to be an IT person that went around, but the flowcharts are extremely limited in here to me for what you could have. I mean, there are some little flowcharts. To me, for this to be a true PC technician flow guide, or troubleshooting guide, there are some great things like that are in here as far as information like this beep codes and stuff. I know you're going to keep that in your head, right? But there should be more of those in there, even if they're small, so that you can go, this has a thing, troubleshooting loading DOS, not too good. But anyway, so there are things like that out there that you could buy if you're going to be a PC repair person to help you through that kind of stuff. Now, I know there's a lot of IT guys that would never pull something like that because they think it makes them look bad. What makes you look worse? Pulling out a book and referring to it, or not fixing a PC? Not fixing the PC makes you look worse. If you think your doctor never goes out of the room when he's doing a consult and looks at a book, you're wrong. Okay? Not everybody keeps everything in their head. There's nothing wrong with referring to other things, which is why the flowcharts are open to you, the internet's open to you. You are not going to probably Google what's wrong with my PC and find out what's wrong with your PC, fixing the PC. Okay, but if you get very specific messages when you're troubleshooting something, then you can Google those and you usually find it, which is why I get irritated when people come in and say something like, I had a message on my PC and it said something about something. I'm like, oh, I'll just Google that, something about, whereas if you actually told me what it said, I'd probably either know or could Google it and find out in a heartbeat, right? So that's why when it has those messages, if you ever have something like that at home, get out your camera, phone, and go as it goes by before it's gone so you can Google it. Because you need to know exactly what it said. But anyway, so it goes through here. So the connections motherboard right? Yes. Does the hard drive spin up? No. Does it spin up on another lead? In other words, by plugging into another port or another power supply connector? Yes. Well, you've got a defective power supply. In other words, one of those cables coming out of the power supply is bad, and that's why it's not booting up. So it's saying, try another, it's calling it a lead, but those 12-volt SATA connectors. I've looked in here, I try this one, you've got a defective power supply. Okay, does it spin up? Yes. Is there a bad adapter on the bus? And these are old, okay. So does it power the motherboard and a bench? So some of these are beyond, we're not going to pull motherboards and bench test them, but you get the idea. Okay, you kind of get the idea of how to read through these. Okay, let's look at another one. Did I close the whole thing? I did. I didn't make that open as a new page. Bad mystery. I need to fix that link, don't I? So what I mean is, as I click on these, they should open in a new page, and they're not. They're opening within the page that we're on. Okay. So CPU, motherboard, RAM failure. They're all together. Why are they all together? Why wouldn't I have one that just says motherboard, one that says CPU, and one that says RAM? They all work together, and none of them work without the other one. There's no way to get a motherboard to start or give you any indications without RAM and a CPU in it. There's no way to test the CPU on its own outside of a motherboard. There's no way to test RAM without it being in a motherboard that has a working CPU, so that those things are all together on one flowchart. Two of these are really difficult. Motherboard and CPU are really difficult, and I say really difficult because if your PC is not starting and it is the CPU, the only way to test the CPU itself is to do what? Put it on a known good motherboard. I would have to have a system right here that runs, just like this system right here that doesn't run. And I would have to take the CPUs and go, now this one runs and this one doesn't. And I've just determined it's the CPU. And that's the only way to do things sometimes. You have to, the rule is called the divide and conquer rule. The divide and conquer rule. The divide and conquer rule. Why did I just say that 3 times? And it's on the chapter 16 test, just so you know. The rule is called the divide and conquer rule. The reason it's called divide and conquer is because the only way to sometimes find out what's wrong is to divide the parts out to determine what's wrong. So no matter what flow chart I have to try to minimize the things that are affecting, that I'm testing at one time, okay? If I go and I say this PC doesn't work, and I change 5 things at one time, and now it works, did I determine what was wrong? No, all I know is one of those 5 things probably doesn't work, okay? So you kind of slowly take out things one at a time, or take them all out and put them back in one at a time, okay? Which I frequently do. And I'm going to go off this flow chart to kind of tell you explain to you what I'm saying, okay? So I've got this motherboard. I'm going to say this PC. I'm going to change my picture already. There's my motherboard. There's my power supply. My power supply is connected in here twice, okay? And then it's connected to, my PC's backwards right now. Just so it's facing, that's the front. Okay, here's my back. Got a bunch of stuff. And I got a couple hard drives in here. I got a CD-ROM in here too. It's plugged in, and these are all plugged in the motherboard, right? And I've got a PC that isn't starting. It isn't starting at all, or it's acting wonky or whatever. One of the things that I can do right away, as part of the divide and conquer rule, is minimize anything that's affecting this PC, okay? In order to get this PC to boot, do I need any of these things attached to it at all? No, because I can still boot to BIOS, right? If it's not working, I can unplug all of that stuff. I can disconnect everything from the back other than the video. That's the only thing I need, okay? I don't even need the keyboard and the mouse to boot. And I say that because I have had, now if I boot, all I'm going to do is put a blinky screen, right? And I'm going to go to BIOS and it's going to say no hard drive bound or something. I've had bad keyboards keep the PC from booting. In fact, my son's PC at home will not boot if the keyboard's connected. Why? I don't know. He turns on his PC and lets it boot, and after it's up to Windows, he plugs in his keyboard. I got him a new keyboard, and this different keyboard that I got worked fine, and it broke while I was in college. So now he's back to plugging in his keyboard after he turns it. I have no idea. It's weird. But the PC will not boot with the keyboard connected. And I've gone through all the BIOS settings, and I cannot figure out why. There's my rubber band, but I really didn't put back on here. Okay. So when we say divide and conquer, we're really saying divide up all the pieces, take away everything that I don't need to test the thing I'm trying to test now. So if I unplug everything from my computer and just keep it to the bare minimum being, and honestly, I don't even need the monitor to see if it'll boot, right? If my PC is open and I turn it on and nothing happens, I don't see the fans running, I don't see any lights, I don't hear any blinking, I can literally unplug everything other than the power and the front header button that goes to power, right? I can even unplug the other ones. I just need the power one plugged in so that I can go and see if it's coming on or not. Now obviously if I was at that point, the one thing I would test first, which we already talked about, is my power supply. I need to make sure there's good power getting to the motherboard before I worry about everything else connected to the motherboard. But some of those things, you're like, okay, I've got my thing comes on and I see the blinking light and BIOS comes on. I probably can bypass testing my power supply. So some things you have to logically go through, the computer turns on, but it never boots. So I know it's on, I see it go to BIOS, but I never see it go past BIOS. Or I hear it coming on, I see the fan going, but I never see BIOS. So you kind of have to divide and conquer. You try to take away as much as you can from the equation. What are the minimum things I need? Okay, so I've got the power supply, and I've just got it sitting here, and I push the button, does the fan go on, the fan start on? Yes or no? Okay, and that's why I'm going to come back here now to this flow chart. Okay, so it's asking, do I get a live screen? In other words, do I get anything that comes up on my screen? Okay, yes. Does it freeze on the boot screen? No. Proceed to the motherboard performance chart. So it's saying we're going to another chart altogether, and there's another one that we can go to. Yes. Does it freeze on bare bones? In other words, I've removed everything else, and does it still freeze? No. Proceed to the conflict resolution chart, which is another chart. Let's say we go over here. Live screen, no. Did we do power diagnostics? And did I go through that chart already? No, I didn't do it, but then go to that chart. First thing it's saying to do. I'm not getting anything, so go to the power. But the power worked, and we did it. And do we do that? Yes. Did we check the video? Okay. No, we didn't check the video. So go to the video failure chart. Because what's the possibility? Does the possibility exist that I could turn this on and it looks like it's starting, but I got no picture? Sure. Okay. Students soak the video card in water all night. It does not work. It's got an added video card. And we've got obviously tons of video cards. Oh, that goes back to this too. So, you know, this sign's been up here all year and you probably haven't even looked at it, but it says computer parts store, parts available for testing with management approval. Today's special, all parts cost $10, free if required for Laura customers. Okay, what's that mean? So there's going to be a card over here with parts. If you need the part to fix your PC, it takes away no points from your test. Okay? If you didn't need the part, it costs you 10 points on your test. I don't understand, Mr. Bull. Okay, so Lane's got a problem, and his PC's not booting. And the problem with his PC is his memory is a jar. Okay? But Lane doesn't try to reseat the memory. He comes and buys new memory, and puts it in his PC, and now his PC works. He gets a 90% on his test. Fixed his PC, followed through the charts, but he got parts for his customer that his customer did not need. Okay? Because if you are actually a PC repair person and you charge your customer $80 for new memory, that fix your PC. Memory was $80. Labor was another $50. It's $130. Here's your new PC. Thanks, Lane. You're the greatest. And he gives you his $130 and he walks away. Okay? But Lane only needed to charge him the labor because there was nothing wrong with this one. Okay? So that's a successful repairman. He doesn't fail, right? And as far as his customer knows, he needed that new memory, but he's not a great repairman. He's not a 100% repairman because a 100% guy does it without charging you for things that you didn't need. Okay, if you took your car in and it needed oil and he gave you a new engine, yeah, your car drove away, but he's not the best repair guy because you paid an extra $2,500 for something you didn't need. Bad example, but you get the point. Okay, so also on there it says parts available for testing with management approval. You can't go and buy parts at Microcomputer and put them in your PC and then take them back. I don't think, maybe you could, I don't know, take them back. But, so if you have actually tested your power supply, if you come over here and you say, Mr. Poole, I ran a test of my power supply I think tests bad, I want to try a different power supply. We'll say okay. Okay? But if you come over here and say, I need a new power supply, and the testers are still sitting right over here, let me get these out of here. They just poked my hand sticking them in here. It hurt. Here, at least put them in there better. So if they're still sitting here and you never took the power supply tester, I've got to go, nah, I don't think so. Okay? I'm gonna say you can buy one if you need one. In other words, I'm not gonna lend you one because you don't probably need one lent. And you might take that as you need to buy one, which is really not what I'm saying. Okay, so if you need to, I don't know if I'm explaining that well. Because I don't think you need them for testing. You should be able to find out otherwise. But if you go, let me say it this way: if you go and think it's the memory, and you take good memory, and it still doesn't work, and you say, hey, try the memory, that wasn't the issue. I'd like to return it. I'll let you return it. Okay, I might take off a point or two, but I'm not going to take off 10 points because you figured out that's not really what it was. Okay. The other thing on the test, and it says this on there, I've had students completely stumped, and I sell hints. Okay, for 5 points. In other words, I don't want you to sit there for an hour and a half staring at your PC and not get it fixed because you're so stumped with it. I've only had that happen in 13 years, I think twice. Okay, where somebody said they wanted to buy a hint. I do sell sarcastic hints for only 3%. What's a sarcastic hint? Okay, sarcastic's not a straight word. Really means not sarcastic, but it's a non-specific hint. Okay, I had a student over here, over on this table, staring at her computer for, I don't know, half an hour. She's just staring at her computer. The thing's still almost all completely closed up. Now this computer is pretty open, but the computer in question that we were using that year had parts that you had to pull out of the way to see into the case, and none of them they were like on hinges, so you kind of went like this and exposed part of it, and went like this and exposed part of it, and she had not moved them at all. She's just staring there. She's got a message on her screen that she doesn't understand, and she hasn't looked into the screen at all. Okay, and so my sarcastic hint was, or my non-direct hint was, "Are you Superman?" And she said, "What in the world is that supposed to mean?" I said, "If you want a non-direct hint, that's all I'm giving you." And what was I saying? Anybody who's a superhero fan, what power of Superman would she need to be able to fix that computer right then? It'd be super strength. I don't think it'd be heat vision.
I was going to go with heat vision.
Fly? I don't know.
Why would flying help her? Come on, what is the one power Superman has that would help you if you aren't moving things out of the way? Yeah, it's infravision, right? Can you see through things? It's not a lead, and I even said, it's not a lead case. And of course somebody else in the room, one of the superhero geeks like me, says, Superman sees through stuff unless it's lead. And she goes, what does that mean? And I'm like, do you want another hint? No. And then somebody else goes, in other words, you can't see it because you're not moving anything. And she goes, oh. And she literally lifted up the board, the one, it was actually a hinge away CD-ROM, right? So that kind of, well, this is a bad example, but not a terrible example, right? You cannot see the hard drive underneath that CD-ROM. It's impossible, right? So if you lift this away and then actually move this open, you would easily be able to see that, well, in this case, there's no hard drive in there at all, but in her case, the power was just unplugged from the hard drive. That's the only thing wrong with her PC, okay? But you couldn't see it because you didn't move anything, right? So that was, I would say, a non-direct hint, but then it requires you to process something that maybe, in her case, she had a couple more helpful. She ended up with she had 9%. And she was like, but I didn't understand the hint. It's like, that's for 5%, not 3%. So she was like, I still want 9%. So you're like, is it worth the 2% difference to try to figure out what the heck is wrong? Anyway, so let's back to where we're talking. And it says that on the test book. That's one of those. I really want to do this on my own, but I'm stumped. But can you kind of send me in the right direction, Mr. Poole? And that's what that means down there. It says on there. Blah 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 blah. Hence, if you come stuck, you may buy a hint from Mr. Poole. Hence costs 5% of your roll grade. You must buy an offhand hint for 3% if you feel lucky. That's what that's talking about. That would be considered what I would say an offhand. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do the rest of the class. Tomorrow, Tuesday, right? Today's Friday.
Yeah.
Yes, Tuesday, we are going to do the help desk exercise. And I want to explain the help desk exercise right now. We did do this, right? So not do this, okay. So in the help desk exercise, I don't know, people really like this exercise or not. So I'll explain to you how the help desk exercise works, okay? So here is 209 closet. Okay, here is the server closet in the library, and here is our room right here. Okay, so in 209 closet, that's an office. I have it set up with a little webcam so we can see what's going in 209. Okay, this is the help desk. You'll be in the office there. Okay. This person is the one getting graded. You're getting graded on your ability to help troubleshoot and fix a problem over the phone. Okay? So this person is going to go in here and sit at the desk. And by the way, in here we'll have a nice projection of that camera so we can watch what's going on in there without and talk about you without anybody hearing. Okay? And so we'll be able to watch and see what's going on from here. So as you are out, me and Lane will be sitting here watching who's ever in 209. Okay? 209 is not being graded, but that's where the broken PC is. So I'm going to walk in here and I'm going to break the PC before you go in. Okay? So I'm going to walk in there, I'm going to freeze the screen so you can't see. I'm going to walk in there, I'm going to break the PC. Brooke's going to go over here to the server room. Michelle's going to go in here to 209. Okay? And Michelle's going to call Brooke. And Brooke's going to answer Xavier Help Desk Solutions. May I help you? Okay, so she's going to be the help desk person over here. And Michelle's going to say whatever she sees and whatever's not working, and Brooke's going to try to help her fix her PC. Okay? Now the person in the office has the knowledge of a regular office personnel. Okay? Which means that if Brooke says something like, could you look at your Ethernet cable and see if it's plugged in to your switch? Regular office personnel just heard blah, 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 blah. Okay? Because regular people don't know what Ethernet means. So you have to talk to Michelle in her language. There's a phone looking cord. I'm not sure what color it is, but it looks just like a phone plug coming out of the back of your computer. Do you see that? Yeah, there's one, and you can say it's got a clear clip on it, because they all have clear clips. Okay? Are they all gray? Are they all blue? Are they all yellow? No. You don't know what color the cable is. Mr. Bull has different colored cables over there. You'll switch them. So if you're in 209, because we rotate around, okay? So if you're over here and then go over there and think, I know the Ethernet's blue, don't think the Ethernet's blue, when Michelle goes in there, because I'll go in there and switch it to a yellow cable. So that if you go, is there a blue cable coming out of the back of your PC? Michelle goes, nope. And you'll be like, really? Blue cable, it's blue. And she'll go, no, there's no blue cable. Because there is no blue cable, because I'm going to switch right to the cables around. Okay? So colors don't work when you talk to people on the phone. You can ask what color cables are coming out of the back of your PC. Well, there's 3 black ones and a gray one. Good chance the gray one's Ethan. Okay? So it's going to require you to talk and ask questions. Now, you're not a complete idiot here. It's not like you can say, hey, is the cable from your keyboard plugged into the back of your PC? You can't go, I don't know what a keyboard is. Okay, because you do use your keyboard every day. You use your mouse every day. So that's the idea. We're going to try to fix each other. Some of you are going to be there like 2 seconds. And you're going to be like, oh, that was really easy. And some of you are going to be there for too long, and I'm going to call you up and say, okay, come back to the room, we'll debrief. Because if it takes 10 minutes, we're not going to get through much, okay? Some of them are going to be really easy. Some of them aren't going to be as easy. And as you go through and roll through a couple times, by the time you've done more than 2, you're going to be like, they're mostly pretty easy, okay? But it's hard. It's a good exercise because it's really hard to fix something when you can't see it. It's so much easier when you walk in to a room and go, yeah, the mouse isn't even plugged in. when you plug in a mouse. Or the power's not plugged in when you plug in the power. Or the power strip's not on. It's easy for you guys at this point, hopefully. It's not necessarily easy for all users. There's lots of times we get called down where they say, my computer's not on. Go down and turn on. Okay? Because they push that button a whole bunch of times. But they never push that one because they just leave it on all the time. It doesn't even occur to them to push that button. Doesn't mean they're stupid. It just means it's not in their routine and they don't think about it. And a lot of users don't think through those things. So it's one of the things that we're going to try to do. You know, we're gonna go to paper. We're gonna do the next exercise. We still have time. Okay. So let me see if it's still on. So that's what we're doing next class. So lucid chart. I haven't looked today to see if it's still on our Google Apps list or not. It used to be. We could go down here and go to lucid chart. Let me see if it's on our thing. Do you see lucid chart?
Yeah, right there on the bottom.
Lucid chart right there. How did I get there? I wonder if you guys can see that. So lucid chart, no, I don't want chart. Lucid chart is something that lets you make these same troubleshooting diagrams. And so we do a little exercise every year. You can see some of the old ones on there. I'll show you how to use it. So I'm going to make a new document, and I'm going to make a blank brochure. Open them. There we go. Now this has changed a little bit. Doesn't matter. I'm just going to say next, and how do I close? Next. Skip tabs. There we go. So I've got a regular thing over here that allows me to go through those things. And if you see over there, look, it says this is for a decision. A little pop up. This is for a process. This is a terminator. So if I go on here, I can start. I'm going to start with this. So I'm going to do some process. So I'm going down there to check the PC process, and then I go to make a decision, and I can draw. If I go from the old thing to the new thing, it automatically makes an arrow for me. So my thing that I'm checking, does it power on? Okay, and then I can go to some more decisions. I'm going to go over here. Here, I label that yes, and then I go over here, and see how it automatically says yes, then no. So yes, does the OS boot? I'm just throwing some things in here, okay? And a decision of no, so you can see how easy it is. Now, what you guys are going to do is you guys are going to make a flowchart, okay? I want you guys to open up this chart. We got 20-some minutes left. I'm going to give you 15 to make a flowchart to get from Mrs. Alexander's room to my chair. Okay? And we're going to print them out, and I'm going to take that flowchart and see if you can get me to sit in my chair. The exercise is to see how hard it is to make a flowchart that actually hits everything. To understand that sometimes on flowcharts, when you look at other people's flowcharts, you have to do some inferencing. But I'm not going to do any inferencing. You guys are going to make it clear to me, how do I get down here to the other end of the room? Okay. The whole point of this exercise. Anybody know why this computer is even up here? Because I do not know why this computer is up here. Put that down to the junk room. I need a cart. So can you guys get lucid chart up first?
Yeah.
You can, okay. So all you have to do is make a new chart, and then when you're done, you can present it or print it. You can just go, that's not the one that works. You can just go to File and Print. Can I just do File and Print? I hit Google Drive Preferences. And then print it out over the other thing that will just come down and we'll try to follow through and see how you do it, okay? So you have to start me somewhere at the top, which would be, oh wait, I got a card right here. Did we figure out what's wrong with yours, Michelle? Did you try a different battery? Brooke?
What?
Did we try a different battery or anything with yours?
No, it must just be slow.
Must just be what? Slow at home?
Yeah. Cause that whole thing, like,
My power cord hardly works at home. Like it feels like crashes and freezes.
We can replace your hard drive, but we only have a week left, so that'd be.
Yeah, no, I didn't really worry.
My
about
question is it when you're plugged in?
no, I can't have it plugged in and working on it at the same time, because it doesn't charge, so there's no point in having it plugged in.
So is there something wrong with your charger, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's what it sounds like. It sounds like maybe something's wrong with your charger itself.
This one's like G down in apps that
Okay, so I'm gonna be standing right outside Mrs. Alexander's door, okay? Not in her room, right outside her door, for the purposes of this exercise.